Yeah, kia ora koutou. Welcome to the Australasian Women in Emergencies Network session tonight, where we're celebrating volunteerism. This is a panel discussion hosted by Fire and Emergency New Zealand. This session is being recorded, so it's being recorded as of now. You're welcome to keep your videos on. I'd love to see you, but just a reminder to keep your mics on mute until it's time to ask questions and have a bit of a kōrero. So ngā mihi nui kia koutou. Thank you so much to everyone that's joining us, and also those that are going to be watching the recording a little bit later on. Just want to acknowledge that it's Te Wiki o Te Reo Māori this week, which is Māori Language Week here in Aotearoa, New Zealand. Kia kaha te reo Māori. So I'm going to open us with a karakia. Kia hora te marino, kia whakapapa punamu te moana. He huarahi mā tātou I te rangi nei, aroha atu, aroha mai, tātou e a tātou katoa. Hui e, tai ki e. So that karakia opens us to have peace and calm ahead of this kōrero and session today, and to guide us, may the sea be like greenstone, so shiny and smooth as we glide into some amazing conversation. I also want to acknowledge any friends that may be joining us or watching us from Australia, to acknowledge the traditional owners of country in Australia and pay our respects to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander cultures and elders past, present and emerging. So what are we in for tonight? So kia ora koutou, ko Mirren Whakaingoa. My name is Mirren. I work at Fire and Emergency New Zealand. No wararapa hou e noho ana o ki te whanganui e tara. So I'm from the Wairarapa in New Zealand, and I live here in Wellington. My role is with the National Community Readiness and Recovery team. However, we're not here to talk about me, because we're very fortunate to have 4 amazing wahine women volunteer firefighters join us this evening to talk about their experiences, and also share in some shared discussion and some Q&A. So what we're going to do is we're going to have a very short, brief overview about FENZ, particularly for any of our friends joining from overseas who may not be as familiar with FENZ. Then we're going to go through some speaker introductions from each of the women joining us tonight. And then we have some really awesome, well thought out questions that the network has put to us. That's going to lead our discussion, and each of our speakers is going to jump in as they feel to answer some of those questions. And then at the end, we're going to have an open Q&A. So any pātai, any questions that anyone has on the call, you can feel free to share those with us. So FENZ, Fire and Emergency New Zealand. We at Fire and Emergency volunteers make up a huge majority, or the majority of our frontline firefighters, and also deliver the bulk of our services in the community. Our volunteers are solely in charge of 559 of New Zealand's 638 fire stations. So again, that just goes to show how much they're a big part of our mahi, our work. They're also staff another 36 stations alongside paid colleagues. So we have composite stations, which have both volunteer and paid firefighters on station. So over 11,800 volunteers in total, responding to many, many things. We've got a nice list there in front of us. So we've got structure and vegetation fires is an obvious one, but then we've also got our motor vehicle accidents, medical call-outs, hazardous materials, search and rescue operations, natural disasters and weather events, which is very significant for us in Aotearoa, and then also international calls for support with deployments overseas, including just recently we've had volunteers in both Canada and the USA, including one on the call tonight. So the other huge part that our volunteer brigades play is in supporting their communities to be fire safe. A really big part of Fire and Emergency's work is also in across the 4 Rs, not just response, but readiness, risk reduction, response and recovery. Our volunteer brigades are well known in the communities, often involved in community events, school events, and other risk reduction activities in the area. So there's so much that they do, and therefore a lot to be talking about tonight. So yeah, I will now bring up introductions for our speakers. So tonight we are really lucky to be joined by 4 Wahine women volunteer firefighters from Fire and Emergency New Zealand. Here they are on the screen. Soon you'll see them in person. We have Leah Hyde, Ariana Billington, Manita Grant, and Anna Gordon joining us tonight. I think you've heard enough from me already. So I'm going to pass over to each of these women to introduce themselves, where they're from across Aotearoa, and which brigade they're with, and then a little bit about their role in the brigade and how they got into volunteering. So without further ado, Leah Hyde, would you like to kick us off, please?
Sure. Okay, so kia ora everybody. My name is Leah. I am the CFO, the Chief Fire Officer, or in some respects, I'm the Rural Controller of Shelley Beach Fire Brigade. Shelley Beach is in Waitemata in Auckland. It is a brigade that sits on a peninsula that encompasses the Kaipara Harbour and the west coast of northwest Auckland. We are what you call an all hazards brigade. So we come from a rural background, but we encompass the urban firefighting because we carry BA, breathing apparatus. Our turnout patch is quite large. It's 200 square kilometres. We attend around 80 calls per year, and they are a mix of pretty much all the things you covered just before, Mirren. So predominantly we go to vegetation fires, structure fires, car fires. We are a medical first response brigade, so we are often sent ahead of an ambulance. And due to our geographical location, we are sometimes there on our own for an hour or two before we get an ambulance. In our turnout zone, we have an area of Woodhill Forest, which is quite a large commercial exotic pine forest in the northwest of Auckland. It's a playground for four-wheel drive, horse riding, motorbiking, tramping, you name it. So for both locals and tourists alike. So the population around this area swells in the summer months. The Woodhill Forest also encompasses a large stretch of the coastline from Muriwai all the way to the top of South Head. I joined Shelley Beach Fire Brigade in 2016. So I've had quite a meteoric rise to becoming Chief Fire Officer. Quite fast. It's been quite a steep learning curve, but a really, really good one. As part of that journey, I'm also on the National Wildfire Deployment Task Force, and I've been deployed to several wildfires nationally. In the deployment, I'm a crew leader. I'm currently training to be a sector supervisor. So I'm in charge of crews who are tasked for long duration firefighting. I've spent some time in incident management team roles and functions, and that's another part where I'm not on the fire ground as such, but helping to manage the incident from behind the scenes. In 2022, I joined FENZ in a paid role as a community readiness and recovery advisor. So that's been another interesting journey because I have that dual lens where I'm a volunteer for the organisation that I work for. That can bring about some amazing opportunities, but also some challenges. So yeah, it's a pleasure to be here tonight and looking forward to sharing some knowledge and insights with the other 3 women on the panel. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Leah. Thanks for that great introduction. And I'm just wondering if you want to quickly share what your photos are in front of us.
Oh, sure. So as you're looking at it, there's a photo where I'm wearing a red helmet and I've got a mask around my neck. That was at a fire at the top of South Head, so in the forest that I was just talking about. We often got called to what we call smoke in the vicinity, and so there's lots of little fires that pop up in the forest, and this one was a really big one. It was in 2019, 2020. So it took out the top of South Head. The little photo in the middle where you can see me wearing a backpack and I've got a forestry hose in my hand, that was up at Waiharara at a big fire that took out the Kaimaumaua forest, which burnt for over a couple of months. It's probably still burning today, to be fair, in pockets. And then the one where I'm covered in paint, I was at a Holy Mela festival accepting an award for fire and emergency for their services to West Auckland.
Awesome. That's very cool. Nice little moments captured in time there. Cool. Thanks, Leah. We're now moving on to Ariana. I'll pass over to you.
Kia ora koutou, ko Ariana tōku ingoa. As the slide says, I am a senior firefighter at Wellsford Volunteer Fire Brigade. Wellsford is the most northern brigade within the Auckland district, or the Waitemata district. So we're about an hour, with no traffic, an hour and a bit from the city centre. We attend around 300 calls a year. Like Leah's brigade, we're also a medical first response brigade. So I think about 40% of our calls are actually medical. Same kind of deal. It's often a long wait for an ambulance to get to us. So we're the first point of call for those. Our station is also on State Highway 1. So we cover a big stretch of that highway within our patch. So quite often motor vehicle accidents, that type of thing. And also really similar to Leah's area, it gets busier in summer because we're kind of the gateway out to Mangawhai, some of the other coastal regions. So we see quite an influx of people travelling and stuff like that over the summer months. I joined FENZ, nearly 9 years ago, just from actually joking over a beer at Touch. And then my friend said, just come to the station on Tuesday and join. I was like, yeah, sure. And I did. And I haven't looked back. And it's actually been like a really good journey. I've learned so much over my time. I've kind of come up through the ranks and done my driving and pump operating, done some line rescue stuff. So I've been really exposed to a lot of different challenges and skills that I wouldn't have found anywhere else. So that's been pretty cool. What else about me? I mean, I'm also passionate about organisational change. So I'm involved in some working groups within the organisation. I'm looking at policy and consulting on stuff like that. I'm also part of our Regional Women's Advisory Network because wahine within the organisation, obviously, really important to me. It's not that long ago that it would have been, uncommon to see a woman firefighter, and we're really lucky within our region, actually, in Waitemata. Like, I have a really good group manager and regional manager that have really paved the way for a lot of wahine within the organisation. So surrounded by like really inspirational people, so that's been really cool. Yeah, that's probably a bit about me. These photos, the one on the left is, as you look at it, this was a part of a this year's International Women's Day campaign, He Mana o Te Wahine. That's in our engine bay. Are you trying to look tough? And the one in the middle, that's my daughter giving me a high five as I'm going to do the Sky Tower climb that I've done a few times. And the one on the right is that's at a burn off, a logging burn off that got a bit out of control, and us just having a little break while we wait. Thank you. It's really nice to be here. So thanks for having me.
Nice. Awesome. Thanks, Ariana. Yeah, great little anecdotes in there that we'll be able to explore later too, and around like a lot of the work that you guys are doing, not just with the volunteer firefighter role, but outside of that as well. So awesome. Okay. And Manita, I'll pass over to you.
Kia ora, ko Manita tōku ingoa, ko matawhaura te maunga, ko kaituna te awa, ko te arawa te waka, ko te arawa tōku iwi, ko Ngāti Pikia tōku hapu, ko hoho ai tōku marae, no Rotorua ahau, ko Manita tōku ingoa. Kia ora everyone, I am Manita. That was just me telling you in Māori where I'm from, here in Rotorua. So the brigade I'm in is Orchidea Falls Volunteer Fire Brigade. So we're about half an hour outside of Rotorua in the central North Island, if you're not familiar. We're a humble little brigade. We started out originally under council, and we're quite heavy in the more rural side of it, forestry, that sort of thing. So progressed on obviously as we came into FENZ, and that sort of snowballed into more of what we do now, which was kind of similar to that list that we saw earlier, a bit of everything. We're on State Highway 33, and so we, like you guys, well, like a few of you will go to a few MVAs. We're also very heavy on lakes around here. There's about 16 within an hour radius, so we've got a boat as well, and we've also got a river here, the Kaituna, which I mentioned before, and that's a very busy river which they go rafting on quite often. So our brigade does cover quite a lot of very interesting things, and as a result we also have quite a cool brigade makeup where everyone's kind of out there doing stuff. So they bring a lot of really awesome skills to our team, which is definitely very strong on the water skill. Not me personally, I just stand on the bank and yeah, I let them shine. We also do in our brigade have quite a few career firefighters who live here in Rotorua, here in Orchidea, and work in 3 of the kind of neighbouring career stations. So again, that's a really cool aspect of our brigade that we get to draw from in terms of knowledge and skills that they are so kind to share with us. So that's pretty cool. I will tell you about my photos. So on the left there, that was taken in Canada a couple of weeks ago on deployment to Alberta. So that's myself and Emma Gibb, who is a career firefighter who's on secondment doing training for the area. She's awesome. She was one of the ones who actually encouraged me initially to get into the deployment space. So another great wahine there. And the second one there is at a burn off that we did. So me and my handy drip torch, handy little tool there. And then the third one there is also over in Alberta. Yeah, I also started quite recently in the scale of things. I've been a volunteer just prior to starting to FENZ coming on board. So I've sort of grown with the organisation in some ways. And I also, like the previous two, also work for FENZ on the side. So I work in the equipment space and the equipment and logistics team for Ngā Tai Ki Te Puku, which is the central North Island. And that's really awesome. And it's just given me such an interesting dimension to everything that I do in our brigade, but also just all the skills that I'm building alongside that, and having that volunteer knowledge from our rural brigade and what I learned from the people in my brigade, as well as really awesome knowledge to bring back through to my work. So I'm lucky that I get to meet a few very interesting faces in that space and share that knowledge. I also got to go over to AFAC last year as the North Island representative for volunteers, which was another really cool opportunity to kind of tap into that Australasian network and find out more about how things roll over there, and just different things happening in the emergency services space. So that was really cool. My favorite thing about being a volunteer is just the amazing people that we meet and the awesome situations that you get to experience that you just probably wouldn't get as at a desk job, you know. So we get to do some really cool stuff as part of what we sign up to do. So that's really awesome.
How good. Thanks so much, Melina. I'm aware that there's some other women on the call that have quite a lot of experience in deploying for their own organizations domestically, who might be quite interested to know a little bit more about how you found deploying to Canada and how you kind of got into that. I'm sure they'd be interested to hear. If you want to share.
Definitely. That's something I knew about quite early on. So quite a few of my brigade had done deployments under the council back in the day, and so just as it continued on into FENZ, they were able to maintain that. But so it's something that I was aware of very early on in the piece, and that I was just encouraged by. I've got an awesome brigade here, and they very, very early on thought that I'd be a good fit for that. And so managers and my boss, my chief, all very quickly, when they saw opportunities, would send them to me and say, hey, I think you'd be good for this. So I've been really lucky to have a really supportive environment, but also I have been aiming for it for a while, and just gathering those skills and ticking off experience and just all the little bits in between. And then it's also a hard one. You just have to sometimes wait for those ducks to get in the row, so that you can put your hand up, because sometimes, especially on like Canada, was 5 weeks, which is a long time to be able to take away from your normal life and get the approval of your bosses and, and your family and things like that. So it's a combination of things, and then just being ready to put your hand up, to be patient, and also to be ready to rough it if you need to, because it can be not so glamorous as well.
Yeah, nice. Really good advice there. And yeah, cool. Thanks for sharing that.
No worries.
Awesome. All right, we will move on, and I'm happy to introduce you all to Anna. Kia ora, Anna.
Kia ora e te whānau, ko Anna Takawingoa. Yeah, my name is Anna. I am a station officer at Ashurst Volunteer Fire Brigade. So Ashurst is lower central North Island. We are a urban fire brigade, so look after structural firefighting, medicals, road crashes, things like that. Keeps us quite busy. I was just having a chuckle actually when I opened the presentation, just as we were getting ready to come on. I realised all the photos I've sent to you, Mirren, have all got the same guy from my brigade in them. So I've just sent him a message saying, I've just figured out that I'm just here to support your career, Matt. Like, that's literally what I'm about. So yeah, so I had to have a laugh. The photos that I've got up with Matt in them have... so one of them is one of our schools in Ashurst. We realised that they were doing a red day for the junior school. So we decided as a brigade, seeing we had red fire trucks, that we would get dressed up in red, and we gate crashed their red day. So the little girl we've got in the picture with us is one of our brigade members' kids. So we kind of snuck into her class and gate crashed red day for them. I too, like other people that are on the call and part of this amazing team that are chatting tonight, work for the organisation during the day. So the next photo down is at a fire investigation with two of my favourite people to hang out with. And then the photo that's in the centre of the slide is Matt and I with the tags that we use for part of our deployment at station. That was the first time I was the OIC of the truck, and that was the first time that he was the driver of the truck. So it was kind of cool that we got to tick off that together as a duo. My starting with FENZ is I am the least likely person to be a firefighter. Every time I find myself in BA about to go into a house fire, I am questioning every one of my life choices because it's not a natural fit for me. I grew up on a farm. My mum had groomed me, I will use that term, to be a farmer's wife. I trained as a primary school teacher because that was a good job for a farmer's wife because there was always going to be a school close by. And then I ended up in Waiouru as a teacher at the Army Museum that is based there. And my poor mum had spent all of her kind of energies as a volunteer for Plunket, and she was on the executive committee for New Zealand and hoped that I would follow in her footsteps. But I joined the fire brigade with the Army. So it was a composite brigade. I was a volunteer there and it was fantastic. The career staff that I worked with are the most patient people in the universe because they spent many hours teaching me the black arts that are things like portable pumps, which I could not understand for love nor money. And yeah, I was just super lucky that there were lots of young firefighters in Waiouru with nothing better to do with their weekends than teach me how to be a better firefighter. So yeah, I was pretty lucky there. I had 5 years off to have babies. And then my husband was in the Army, so we moved and changed camps and ended up close to Ashurst. So I rejoined when the kids were at kindy and joined the Ashurst Brigade. So I feel kind of like the old one amongst our group. I joined 20 years ago. So I've been volunteering for 15 of those years while I had a little bit of time off while the kids were little wee. So yeah, so that's me.
Nice. Thanks so much, Anna. Yeah, great little summary there. And yeah, good to see your fun photos there is always good to see. But yeah, I love that story about crashing Red Day. How good. I bet you they would have loved it. Awesome. So yeah, thanks so much to all of you for giving that nice introduction and sharing a little bit about yourselves. What we're going to do now is we're going to jump into some pātai and have some guiding questions that we're going to use to sort of guide our discussion. And what I will do is actually read out our first two questions, and then I'm going to turn the presentation off so that we can see people's faces and hands up and things like that. So our first two questions for us to talk about today is, first of all, what motivated you to join FENZ as a volunteer? And some of you did sort of allude to that when you first did your intros, but I'm interested to know what specific aspects of your role as a volunteer firefighter attracts you to it. And then how do you feel as a volunteer responding in your own community? How does it make you feel? So while you mull over that, I'm just going to stop sharing. There we go. Lovely. Okay, so if any of you have a potential answer, you can pop your hand up and I'll come to you. So yeah, that first question is around what motivated you to join FENZ as a volunteer and what aspects of your role attracted you to it. So I might start with Anna there, as I think her hand went up first. Over to you, Anna.
Cool. So what I found that attracted me to join Fire and Emergency was I'd been involved in a vehicle accident as a 15-year-old, so I knew that at some stage I'd had a brigade come and assist me. So at some stage I knew I needed to pay that back. Probably what kept me there was that what you do on a fire truck or the community education that you get involved in actually makes a difference in someone's day. So my day-to-day work at the time was I was a training and development advisor for Army. And whilst I loved my job, it actually didn't matter if I was at work or not. So if I wasn't at work, then some emails might not get answered, a course might not get written, but it was all going to be catch-upable work where what I did on the fire truck made a real life difference. Every time you climbed on that fire truck, it made a difference in someone's day. So that's probably what kept me there, is the importance of the work that you're doing while you're doing it. And even if it is something that we consider tiny, you're still making a really bad situation for someone better. So yeah, that's kind of what kept me there as well.
Nice. Thanks for sharing that, Anna. Ariana, do you have a answer for us as well?
I do. I mean, I kind of shared a little bit before about how I got sucked into this life. But yeah, sort of similar to Anna, the reason why I stayed was because you had a real tangible feel that you were doing good. And I've got 3 daughters. They're 20, 20, and 17 now. But at the time they were young, I wanted to be showing them that they can actually make a real contribution. And it didn't have to be something big. It didn't have to be your whole life, but you could be doing what you could in a space where you're really making, like Anna said as well, a difference to people's lives daily. So, and to answer your second question, I think that turning out in your own community is even more important. Like for me, the care that I would want for my own family, the care I would want people to take for them, is I want to do that for others. So yeah, you often go to calls that you know the people. It's a small community, but yeah, I think that's even more of a reason to do it in your own space.
Nice. Leah.
Yeah, so I grew up in Taumaranui, so a little dot of a town in the central North Island, and my parents were friends with the chief of the fire brigade at Taumaranui, and he was actually the chief right up until not that long ago, and I'm 48, so he was the chief for a very long time. And I just remember we would go to their places. They had kids that were the same age as us, and we'd be at their house for barbecues and swims in their pool and stuff like that. And the siren would go, and half of the people at the party would disappear. And they were all out there in amongst it, helping people in a very small town that we lived in, and they would have known everybody probably that they were going to. And as a kid, I remember that feeling of A, everybody leaving, but B, it was when they came back. It was a great sense of they had done something together, they were a team. That's sort of how it felt as a kid. It just felt cool as a kid. Then when I never really had the chance to be a part of that, where all of the other places that I lived, until I moved to Shelley Beach. And Shelley Beach is kind of a small little community, a was a lot smaller than Taumaranui, but it has that same sort of sense. And my son was only 3, and a little bit like Ariana, I was like, I wanted to be that sort of role model for him. I wanted him to see the things that I saw from my dad's friend as a kid. And so that's ultimately, I saw the fire brigade and the people in it as kind of like-minded individuals that like to get stuff done and like to help. And it's that tangible difference. You're in a moment in time where it could be the absolute worst moment of somebody's life, and you've got just that little something that you can contribute to that and make a positive change in someone's life, hopefully.
Awesome. Thank you, Leah. Manita, anything to add there?
I mean, they've really hit the nail on the head there. Couple of things I would add would also be that my big cousin, when I was growing up, she was just the coolest, and she still is the coolest. And she's a career firefighter here in Rotorua, and I just want to be like her because she's so cool. I've had another one of my female cousins as well who's been a career firefighter. So, you know, I'm just trying to be as cool as my big cousins. That definitely is a draw card. But also, I grew up volunteering at school. We always had to do it as part of school. So volunteering has always been something for me that it's just been something that is a good way to give back to your community, and it's something to be encouraged. But it also is great for my mental health, you know, to be giving where you're not expecting a reward, you're just doing it to help people when they need it. And also just because I've been voluntold, and so it just is, if you've turned up with a good attitude, they kind of grab that and run with it. But it's taken me some awesome places. So I think that, yeah, that's why I definitely would recommend it to people, because you can get to do some pretty cool stuff.
Awesome. I really like how all of you spoke about how you were inspired to get into it because of how other people inspired you through you seeing or being helped in an incident, or seeing people leaving a party, or your whānau that inspire you. And then, but then how you also comment that you guys are wanting to be those for your whānau and for your people. That's a pretty cool full circle, right? That's what attracts you to the role and keeps you there, I think is amazing. So the second question there, which we have a minute for before we move on to another couple, is around how do you actually feel as a volunteer responding in your own community? And I think you've all spoken to that in the sense of that you feel like you're able to inspire others, that you feel like you can show a good example. But what sort of other feelings do you get when you are that person leaving the party, or you are that person that's going to training every Tuesday night, or whatever it is? Is there any other feelings that come up? Leah?
Yeah, so I think when you're heading out there, I know, especially in a small community like we're in, it can bring about that kind of mix of emotions, because you have a connection and a commitment to the community that you live in, and those are also the people that you're serving. So it can be quite, I don't know, a lot of the time when you're going into somebody's home that you know, and you might know them in your personal life, and you're seeing them in a completely different environment, that can be a little bit confronting at times. And also it's what happens after that, and it's that you have an intimate connection with them, a knowledge of what they've just been through, or what's happened to them, or what you've supported them through. So I think it can kind of make you feel a little bit more ingrained in the community in some ways. But it's also a little bit hard to get that separation when people might know you as the chief or as the firefighter. And a lot of people then, I've had people come and knock on my front door for an emergency instead of ringing 111. And I've had that happen 3 times in quite serious situations. And it's sort of, although it's kind of great that they know we're here to help, it can put you in some sticky situations sometimes.
Yeah, I can imagine that would be very conflicting for you, and they're lucky that you're the one that's answering the door in that situation, because knowing you'd be able to handle it. But yeah, how conflicting. Anita, and do you want to add to that before we move to the next question?
Yeah, I think that one of the things is sometimes when there's situations unfolding, you can definitely understand people feeling really helpless. So it is one of those things as well that you actually do have the skill set to go out and help, and to try and improve the odds of the outcomes there. So it's, yeah, I guess it's one of those things that you're just fortunate to have the ability to help, as opposed to sometimes there might be situations that happen and people, they don't know how to help, and they don't have the awareness of what they could do to assist. So we're just lucky that we have the ability to do it, because you see their faces when they'd love to help, but there's nothing they can do. So yeah, it can suck sometimes, but at least we can do something sometimes.
Yeah, awesome. And I guess that's when you're really looking at that opportunist side of it, on how you can make a difference. Cool, that's really valuable. Thanks for sharing that. I'm going to move now to the next question. I'll just bring my slide back up, which is around, where are we? There we go. Thinking about it. There we go. So yeah, I'll just read out this is our second part of the questions. So these are our last guided questions, and then we'll move to if there's any questions from the floor. So here we have some questions around, can you guys describe any specific challenges you've encountered as a wahine, a woman in this field, and any practical advice that you might have for others in overcoming these? How does your organisation, FENZ, support women in your role? And in what ways has your involvement with the brigade impacted your personal growth and or professional development? So yeah, starting there around that first question of challenges, I'll get you guys to raise your hand if you've got an answer for maybe something in particular that you've encountered as a woman, as a volunteer firefighter. Anna, I'll pass over to you.
Prior to FENZ, with the fire service, one thing I noticed that was a really big difference between being involved as a volunteer with the army and then coming to the fire service was that I didn't expect it. I thought army was quite a male-dominated environment. Coming to the fire service was male-dominated on a whole new level. And so, like, I think the organisation has grown a lot and we have a lot more wahine in the organisation now, but for a long time it was really isolating to be a wahine in this organisation, and so that did come with its challenges. There was a whole heap of people's perceptions on what it meant for you to be a female firefighter. In my own brigade, the chief at the time, I wasn't allowed on the truck for 2 years because he didn't see the value of having a female firefighter as part of his crew. So I think some of those challenges can be that you need to play the long game, that we all want it to be better than what it was and where it is now, and we all have big pictures of how we want the organisation to look and to feel and to be a part of. But that is organisational change, takes a really long time. So one of the things I learned early on is that you will drive yourself mental trying to fix things as you come across them and see them. That it is definitely a long game. And probably one of the really small things I've found, which isn't a really small thing, but it kind of is, but kind of isn't. Like 20 years ago when I joined, the army bought me gloves and boots for a female from the States, so that they were female fit. And 20 years later, I'm in men's gloves, men's boots that do not fit. And you know, like I'm on the national advisory, and like every meeting I'm like, here we go again with the boots and gloves. Like it does, one day we'll get the boots and gloves. I'm so excited for that day, but it's a long game. So I suppose, yeah, having that patience for the boots and gloves. It's, yeah.
Nice one. Thanks, Anna. Thanks for sharing that about some of your early days. And I think probably everyone else that's on the call here can appreciate the comments around the boots and gloves. Ariana, I'll pass to you.
Okay, oh yeah, I have stopped giggling over that now, because I was thinking I haven't actually, like, I feel really blessed that I haven't I've come across challenges, but not really any as a wahine, like not because I'm a female or anything along those lines. I've had a really supportive time in every sense with my time here with the organisation. But alongside that, I recognise, and I have seen and heard anecdotal evidence of, like, you know, people who've had the absolute complete opposite experience. I know the organisation has slowly changed and we've still got a really long way to go. But the work that's been done around diversity and inclusion is amazing. The work towards uniform and stuff like that is really good and really promising. So I think it's kind of like Anna said, it's just the patience and keeping on speaking up, keeping on, like, pushing for things. But yeah, I would like some boots that fit well too. That would be amazing.
Thank you. And Manita, anything to add there?
Yeah, definitely echo the patience in the long game sort of thing. Sometimes I guess it's also just picking your battles of what things you're gonna, respond to and what things you're just gonna let it roll off. But no, I've had a pretty positive experience as well. One thing that probably is that I've noticed, which might just be our area, but I know that it's not the case in every area, but our career and volley relationship in Rotorua is actually really good, which obviously being a bit more of a male-dominated one for the career, we're very fortunate that in my experience, I've had a great time whenever I need to go on station there. I've developed quite good relationships sort of based on from our brigade and just the way I've met them, but it has definitely helped. And then also awesome VSOs and managers. I am one of the lucky ones who has had gloves and boots that fit because they've gone through the effort to find them for me. So I've been getting the good boots. Sorry guys, I don't hope I haven't been taking them from you. But I also probably have I'm all of 32 years old, so I am a bit more fresh in this space as well. So I have benefited from, people paving the way for me as well, which is really awesome. And yeah, so I definitely do note that as something that, it is a blessing and a curse sometimes because you do sort of get underestimated being a young female. They're kind of like, what, is she lost? But overall, I've had a pretty good experience.
Thanks, Manita. We've had a question in the chat, and I'm going to wrap it into our next question and then maybe just put it to one of you to have a good go at answering it because of an interest of time. So the question in the chat is a fair one, and it says, where do you all find the energy to keep speaking up about these things? And I want to wrap that into our next question, which is around, what is the organization doing to support you? Because I feel like they kind of go hand in hand. What gives you the energy to speak up, and then who's supporting you to do that? Any of you willing to answer that one or have any thoughts to add on that one? I'm not telling you have to solve it. Yes, Leah, go for it.
Yeah, I'm going to give it a shot. So personally, I think you have to focus on your skills, your strengths, and the fact that you bring a unique perspective to firefighting, and both from the front line and in leadership roles. Like, it's about normalizing seeing women in these roles. We are fortunate in FENZ to have some good mentors and support networks that we can look to specifically for women. So I think connecting with other women in firefighting at any level is something we need to all be doing. I think something too in fire and emergency that we need to do is communicate our needs. I know we're pretty good at it, but whether it's about training, equipment, facilities, anything like that. So to help FENZ understand what we need to be able to speak up so that they can address it. And I think something that we're seeing a little bit more of, which is great, is wahine embracing leadership opportunities. So I think it's really important that we don't shy away from those leadership roles, because those can be the things that inspire other women around you. I know that that's how it's been for me and a lot of things that I've been doing recently. And I think most of all, you need to stay resilient and persistent. So challenges will always be there, but I think ultimately the persistence pays off. It can be tiring, but progress is being made. And I think that as women, our presence in the field is important. It helps diversify the organisation and strengthen the service that we offer to our communities.
Awesome. Thanks, Leah. That was a really nice, well-rounded answer. I would like to hear from the rest of you on that, but just because of time, I'm going to keep going. So our final guided question is around in what ways has your involvement with your brigade impacted your personal and or professional development in life? So yeah, if maybe two of you wanted to have a go at answering that one, interested to see how your brigade role has impacted other parts of your well-being in life. And I will also acknowledge that you've kind of already, a lot of you spoken about it already, but we'll see what else you wanted to say. Anita, go for it.
Well, I'm actually a textile design graduate, and I've veered right off course, so it's derailed me completely. I'm now in a very different industry from where I ended up, because I guess it's just it's something that you learn so many skills in it, and yeah, you grow a lot from doing something like this. But I've also found that it's complemented a lot of I do other volunteering things as well, and especially when I was in Alberta a few weeks ago, I really noticed how those skills from those different eras of my life were really coming together in that moment. And I thought, wow, I'm so glad I've been building all these skills this time, because it's really, really made me into a well-rounded person, and definitely helped to, yeah, send me along a path that I didn't expect to go down. So yeah, it's definitely helped me grow and develop in those areas for sure.
That's really interesting. I didn't know that you were a graduate of textiles. It is a bit of a derail, but in a good way. So I would say
Yeah.
the word derail has negative connotations, but I think it's a good thing.
I do too.
How good. Anna, would you like to share as well?
Yeah, I think what you do in the brigade can only rub off on your growth personally. So I think there are lots of things that can be quite challenging that you face in the brigade, whether that's what you're doing on the trucks, or it's like building the brigade to be a better brigade, and like team building and all those sorts of things. They instantly flip into your personal life. I think as a parent, I think brigade life has made me a better parent, and it has made our family a stronger family. Like, my kids talk about our fire whānau because they have grown up at the fire station. They know all the fire brigade families. They know the other kids. They know the other parents. They know they cannot get in trouble in our town because there's like 22 sets of eyes on them. So like, I think it has, not just on me, but on our entire family, has impacted and grown us to be better and stronger. And I think, professionally, yeah, definitely everything you do in the brigade, as soon as you show some enthusiasm, that is growing, and good leaders will pick up on that enthusiasm and will offer opportunities. Those opportunities then grow and develop into other things. Like, I think, yeah, all of us on the panel are now in different aspects of FENZ as well. So that's all started from a volunteering life, has then grown and developed and given us all different opportunities. So yeah, definitely wouldn't be without it.
Thanks, Anna. And Leah, any final comments from you, Leah?
Yeah, like super fast.
Yeah,
but portable pumps and chainsaws, I now will never be beaten by my lawnmower, and I will never be beaten by a chainsaw ever again, because they are just pumps. They are just machines. And so if anything else, that crosses over really well into property maintenance.
Very good. Very good. Nice. Awesome. Well, I'm just going to go back to sharing my screen and also checking if we've got any other questions and comments. So bear with me while I switch back over. Anything in the chat there doesn't look like it. That's okay. Perfect. Oh, gone too far. Okay, great. Yep, that's great. We've had some really good, thorough questions. That's probably why there's no more questions, because we've really talked about quite a few things in there, haven't we? So yeah, I just want to, before we sort of move to wrap up, because I am aware of time, thank you all very much for those amazing answers. I think what it does is it really shows how the four of you are truly inspiring as wahine in this space, but in the sense that, you all are taking opportunities when they come to you, and jumping on that, which I think is awesome and really good for other wahine, no matter whether they're also volunteer firefighters or volunteering in another space or with another agency. To see that and admire that is really cool. And, also really mihi to you all for sharing quite some personal stories in there, especially around the early days, and that's not easy to do, and it's not always easy to acknowledge. So really appreciate that too, because once one woman hears it, it could mean that they will open up about those things too, and have a better time because of it. So really appreciate that. Right, what I'm going to do now is move through to, I'm going to think about it again, the final part of our presentation, because we are right on time for finishing up. So I just wanted to, I'm going to throw very quickly to Amy, if she's probably not expecting it, but Amy is our New Zealand chapter lead for the network, and I'm just going to throw to her to talk about the next session, and then Amy, I'll be able to close us with a karakia.
Kia ora koutou. I'm Amy, as Mirren kindly introduced myself. I'm the New Zealand chapter lead, and just want to say a huge thank you to the 5 of you ladies for coming and giving your time tonight to speak to us, to talk a little bit about your experience, to talk a little bit about FENZ and the impact that it's had on yourself, but also to those of you that have joined us tonight live and are recording after the fact. And just a reminder that we are well on a roll with highlighting some of the different amazing volunteer organizations here in New Zealand, Aotearoa, and that we have one more fortnightly Thursday evening session scheduled with Land Search and Rescue coming up 2 weeks from today on the 3rd of October. So if you haven't already, I highly recommend that you guys take about 30 seconds and register on Humanitics for that session. And back over to you, Mirren, to close us out tonight. It's been a great conversation.
Thanks, Amy. Yeah, I just want to again thank very much all 4 of our speakers. They've done a fantastic job. Thank you also to you guys that have listened and spent the full hour with us, and those that could have joined for a part of the, and then also those of you that are going to join in the recording. So ngā mihi nui kia koutou for that. I'm going to close us now with a karakia. Kia karakia tātou. Ka whakaira te tapu, kia wātea ai te ara, kia tūru ki whakataha ai, kia tūru ki whakataha ai. Ue tai ki e. So that's our karakia to close, to move aside what we've talked about today, and our pathway is now clear to enjoy the rest of our evenings and hopefully get a nice restful sleep. And I say that because I'm very impressed that all 4 of our volunteer firefighters were not called out during the hour, which was a very high possibility. So
I was like, surely one of us is going to not make it because of that bad.
Right, I'm going to stop the recording now, and thank you all very much for joining us.